up, y'all? Today I'm working on the truck. Been having a little issues with fuel problems. I put replace the fuel pump in this thing, and then it's kind of working, but kind of not at the same time. I think it might be just some trash in it, but mainly ever since I built this motor, I put different fuel injectors in it. Stock fuel pump isn't keeping up. I don't think it has enough pressure. Stock fuel pump on this truck runs up, I think, about 40 psi, somewhere around there. I think these fuel injectors require 60 or more or so. So I went and got one of these. It's one of those Holley drop-in fuel pump replacements. It's a 12-321, which is the 450 liter per hour pump, which is the bigger of the two. This is also the returnless style. Thing about these, you can convert them one way or another, depending on what your setup is. I'm just going returnless for now, just make it simpler, especially since I'm only running naturally aspirated. If I ever decide I want to put boost on this thing, I could always convert to return style, which has a fuel line that goes to the engine and one comes back from the fuel pressure regulator with an external fuel pressure regulator. Running this pump also requires you to run AN fuel lines, and I got this AN PTFE AN dash 6 AN PTFE hose, as well as the fittings for it to make it work. I went with the PTFE in case I decide I want to run E85, the basically alcohol. Regular Rubberline can disintegrate after a while with the alcohol. This isn't supposed to, though. If you get this style, this line, you do have to get PTFE compatible fittings, which I got. I didn't buy the aluminum wrench for these, so I'm going to have to be very careful. It's the aluminum wrench for the AN. The AN wrenches are designed to not scratch the fittings, but if I do, I'm not too worried about it. I'm really just trying to get this thing running because this thing kind of runs like poo. Mainly I'm getting issues in like third or fourth gear. Near the higher RPMs, it starts like leaning out, and even though I'm running a micro square on this, and even though I got pretty much the fuel enrichment turned all the way up, it still leans out every once in a while, because I think the stock fuel pump isn't flowing enough fuel for these fuel injectors, and because this is set up for batch fire instead of multi-point EFI, I think the pressures are fluctuating way too much. So when you go to step on the gas, sometimes maybe on the lower pressure rating than the 40, and that's when it leans out. Anyway, not good at all. One thing I didn't get for this setup is the vent, the adapter to run the vent hose on that goes through the filler neck. So I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do that. I might just send it for now, but I don't know if that will cause a problem. I know that's an emission thing, but this truck has no cats on it either anyway, and it's got headers and that pretty much a rebuilt motor on it, so it's not really compliant anyway. Fortunately, I live in Florida, so that's not really too much of an issue. Anyway, first things first. Normally when you do the fuel pumps on these things, you either want to lift the bed up or drop the tank down. Previous owner actually cut a hole right around here to get to the fuel pump. I don't know why. I'm loving it right now because it's easy access, but don't do that. Really, just, like I say, have a buddy help you, or a couple buddies help you and lift the bed up off the frame, or drop the tank down. So all I have to do is move this bed insert out of the way, which is kind of tricky because it's kind of stuffed underneath this lip. You can see on the other side of the lip I'm talking about, it's stuffed up underneath there in some areas. and it's a little heavy. I mean, it's plastic, so it's not too bad, but it is a little heavy, and it's a hot day out. So it becomes summertime in Florida, and it gets kind of brutal, and I don't have a cover. I know I did at the old house, but it's the new house, I don't have that luxury right now. So, yeah. I'm also going to have to disconnect the fuel lines right here. You know, the fuel line right there, and figure all that out. Now, I did buy, like, I think there's 30 feet of this, maybe 20 feet of this. That's more than plenty, because I'm literally going from right here, right about where the filler neck is, up to about halfway up to the truck. So I literally probably only need, like, let's say 15 feet. So I'll definitely have some of this left over for, like, other stuff. Anyway, let me go ahead and get this bed insert out, and I'll catch you from there. So with the bed liner out of the way, you kind of see what I'm talking about. The previous owner cut a hole here. Pretty nice hole, but still, he didn't give me the piece back, so I can't patch it up, so I have to run the liner. But you can kind of see the connections we need to take off. We need to take off a couple of hoses. This is the evap canister hose. This is the vent hose I was talking about, and this is the actual fuel line. Of course, the electrical connector. So literally, this one kind of just undoes itself. Another thing you might want to do is start the truck up and pull the fuel pump relay. It'll take most of the pressure off the line, so when you pull it, so when you disconnect it, it's not going to spray out as much. It's still going to be a little bit of pressure in the line, but not too much. Also, if you let this thing sit for a while, it'll also do the same thing. Like if I pull this off, it might spray out, so be careful. You may want to wear safety glasses for this, but yeah, so that's what I mean. It wasn't too much. Yeah, and of course it's just a vacuum line. This just unplugs, and this one's just held in by a couple clamps. And the electrical connector, little tab, you pull up, and the whole thing comes out. And pay attention to these wires, because this is the main fuel pump ground. I'm going to have to wire in the new connector, and you got to figure out which wire is what. The 40 liter per hour fuel pump requires heavier gauge positive wire, which I believe is this green one right here, the green and black stripe right here. So I'm not going to be using this one, but I'm going to be using pretty much the other ones. Two of these are for the gauges, and I think the two black ones are grounds. I believe this black one's the ground for the fuel pump, which I probably will retain. I just have to run a different power wire with a different fuse and different relay, which fortunately on my truck I just tried to do an electronic radiator fan on it before, and it didn't really work out because I didn't have a shroud and it was still getting hot. But I still have a 30 amp relay, well 40 amp relay, a 30 amp circuit breaker, the electrical wires here still. Just gotta figure out which one's what. The electrical wire. Okay, here's got the electrical wire that could go all the way back to the tank. And I just gotta figure out which wire goes to the switch, which I believe is this one. I think this one's the switch source, which will come off the harness, well, which will be tapped into this purple one right here, that's on the micro squirt, whatever they want to call it. So this is the trigger wire for the fuel pump. Then I'll pretty much be it. So I'll just pull one of these wires off, put a spade connector on this, then stick it in there, and the electrical part will be all handled. And I just gotta strip this off, get a length of wire, and run it all the way back to the back where the fuel pump is, and splice it in. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this vent hose off, and I'll probably go inside for a bit because, like I said, it's hot out here. I don't really have a way to make a cover, so I'm gonna take my time on this. So I'll see y'all in just a second. So I got this hose off, and the other connections off. This little ring right here is pretty tight. What I used was a flat bar. It's a simple flat bar, and I put the claw up to these little bumps that come out. Then I just used a hammer, tap it around to unscrew it. I think they do sell a specific tool for this, but I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to have to retain this ring as well, so make sure you don't destroy it. Try and take it off, and now you're going to have to replace it. Now with this loose, the fuel pump assembly will come out. This style is pretty much like a can, and it is filled with gas, so be careful. I just got to figure out a way to drain the gas back in. We'll dump the gas back into the tank. I'm going to try that as best as I can, but you know, it does hold quite a bit, so try to save as much as you can because gas is expensive, especially 93. So yeah, I'm gonna go inside, take a little bit of a break because, like I said, it's hot out here. And yeah, I'll see you in just a second. Alrighty, so this is the fuel pump. Like I said, it's the 450 gallon per hour fuel pump, so it's going to require some stuff. First of all, the actual the distance from the fuel pump to the top is adjustable. You just loosen up that screw and the two screws on the side, and that slides up and down. You want to make sure it's pretty much as close to the bottom of the tank as possible. That way you utilize all your thing. And of course, you have to put the float on, the sock on, the little gasket on, and this just literally drops right in. So yeah, I'm gonna assemble this real quick because it's kind of hard to do one-handed. Then I'm gonna show you how I show you it finished. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start dropping it into the tank, and see if this adjustment needs to be fixed or not, or set. So see y'all in just a second once I get it put together, and kind of give you a little highlight tips on how to put it together and stuff like that. So see y'all in just a second. Alright, so I pretty much got the fuel pump assembled. As you see, the float's on there. You kind of just like slide it into this little hole and just push this little hole right here, and you just push it down, and that pretty much locks your float in. The sock, you gotta orient this just right. Look at the top, you kind of see how this is shaped, and kind of compare it to how it is on the truck, and it's about how it's similar. Then you want to orientate the sock kind of like how it is on the tank, where the front part of from the fuel pump, the front part of the tank is much shorter than the rear part of the tank, so that's how you orientate that. What I do is, like I said, set the pump height, then put the gasket on, and I could throw it in there. Now I'm going to start doing the fuel line, and after that I'll do the electrical. So let me go ahead and put this down and figure out all that. I'm trying not to damage this either, or bend this in any way that could throw off the gauge reading. So that is one thing to be cautious about. So also this little sock thing is pretty tight on there. It kind of like locks onto this little nub there with a little hole. The big hole goes, of course, into the pump because that's where the fuel goes into. But there's a little nub here that kind of locks onto this little ring. And it's kind of difficult to actually get it seated in there properly. So, just kind of giving you a warning on that. So now, like I said, I'm going to have to set this pump height. Not really sure an easy way to do that, honestly. I'm look at the instructions real quick, see if there's maybe like a like a um, something already documented in this in the instructions. If not, I might look on a couple YouTube videos. I know YouTube channel called Boosted Motorsports did the same upgrade to his Dodge Dakota when he was putting the Hemi swap in there, the Hellcat swap in it. So I just could look on one of his videos, see where it is, because even though that's I think a '99 Dodge Dakota RT, it should still work for this because it's the same, almost pretty much the same exact fuel tank, or is the same exact fuel tank. So his settings should work for this as well. I think it's also a 450 liter per hour pump as well. Not exactly sure, but that is probably a good place to start. Anyway, let me go and figure that out real quick because I want to get that all set up before I commit to putting it in the fuel tank and lock it down with the ring. So, see you in just a second once I figure that out. Alrighty, so I got the fuel pump out right there. I got the new fuel pump right here. I got the height set. It technically says you're supposed to take a tape measure, go to the bottom of the tank and measure up to this top lip right here. That's where the fuel pump sits. Well, I couldn't find my tape measure in time, so what I did was I took a copper exhaust strap, stuck it down in there, and took the measurement like that, and I matched it up to here. So now I just got to drop it in, put the new gasket on, and seal it up, and take a break for a bit. And it's basically just running the fuel line and the electrical. I'm still waiting on one more fitting to come in the mail. Should be here hopefully later on today. But at least be able to get the electrical part done. And I have to put a new map in a new startup tune in the ECU, because this one's a lot more pressure than the factory one, and of course it flows a lot more. So there's that too. But I'm gonna go ahead and get the tank sealed up again, and get back to you in just a little bit. Alright, so the fuel pump is officially in. Funny thing enough, this fuel pump actually goes in a lot easier than the stock one, mainly because this one doesn't have all the big regulator up here and a bunch of other stuff that the stock one has. So that's basically in. I'm gonna take a break a little bit. I did accidentally scratch the top right here by accident, but no, oh well, no big deal. But I'm gonna go and take a break real quick, get some water and whatnot. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the fuel line and all that, then the water, then the electrical, then so I gotta figure all that. I gotta figure out what wires go to the gauge, and you know, wire it up, then of course plumb it up, then you know, all that extra stuff. So while I got it pretty much installed, I'm gonna put a little bit of paper in the little hole right here, and yeah, I'll get back to you just a little bit. Alright, so I'm kind of stuck right now. I need to get some things. I'll go over some things I've already done. I already made this part of the fuel line. As you see, it comes out the top over. I'll go over how to set AN lines and by tomorrow when I go to do the front, or in a little bit. I really don't know. Oh, and I also relocated the fuel pump. Really, I just got it sitting right here, and kind of did a little bit of the wiring for it. So I just gotta plug it in, turn the key, and see if it clicks on and off. Clicks on with the fuel pump, the micro squirt. Then I got this wire. I got this wire to go to the fuel pump in the back. Then I got a wire in Gotta figure out which wires I need in here, which the people for the Holley says it's gonna be this blue and with the yellow stripe, and this black one. Those are for the gauge. And I just gotta wire them into here. I think I already know how it is. Funny thing is that the wiring on this fuel pump is a lot like USB. So I just gotta figure out which one's negative and positive. Obviously on here, this one will be the positive, or probably the signal in, and this is going to signal out, or the negative. And of course negative for the fuel pump, and negative and positive for the fuel pump. Though I'm not going to worry about this wire or this one in the middle. I'm only going to worry about the 3 right here. And of course I'm going to have the other wire come up and go into the fuel pump. So I'm going to try to cut the connector off like back here. That way I got enough room to solder, to crimp in or solder back on. That way if I have to go back to the factory fuel pump, I can. That's also why I'm not really trying to ruin anything really. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm just going to finish running this fuel line, which by the way, this stuff's a bit of a pain because it's I thought it was going to be nylon all the way through, but no, it's got steel in it. Just steel braided with like a nylon outside, and that steel braided makes it a lot harder to cut, and also a lot harder to make a nice cut with the hacksaw or even the cutoff wheel. So I got this hose line disconnected from the bottom and from the top. It's kind of just sitting there. It's probably mounted onto a bracket. I can't remember, so I'm probably just going to tuck this up out of the way. I'm just going to have the other fuel line come up this way, or up in the back, up towards the back, following along the side. Make sure it's as far away from the exhaust as I can. That way I can get into here. What happened was I bought the connector that goes in here to convert this to an AN, but I got the wrong size. I believe this is supposed to be a 5/16, and I accidentally got a 3/8. So, oops on my end. And yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna try to set up that fuel line as best as I can. Even though, like I said, I'm missing the connector, so I won't be able to get an exact measurement on it. But it'll be close enough. I ain't worried about a little bit of excess. I'd rather have it too long than not long enough, you know. Anyway, let me go ahead and get that all situated. And let me go ahead and test this relay, which I could probably do right now. Which I would do right now, but my radio's on in the truck, and I don't want to have copyright issues. Another way to test this is to plug the laptop in it and go into the test mode and just turn the fuel pump on manually. That would also click this on and off, but I don't think that's really necessary. Basically, all you're trying to do is when you turn the key on, listen for this to click on and click back off once the priming cycle is finished. So let me go ahead and do that and set this fuel line up, and then I'll kind of go over how to cut it and set up, well, mainly to set up the AN lot fitting, because it's a bit tricky, especially if you didn't have done it before. I'll see you in just a second. Alrighty, so I got the fuel line up and out. I have ran it along the frame. I didn't secure it yet, but it is routed to the way to where it's out of any major heat areas and all that, so that's pretty good. Got it taped off to kind of mark where I want to cut it. Kind of want to cut it like that. It kind of gives me a little bit of slack, and of course with the fitting it's going to come right here. Now the one in the back I did with the hacksaw, and it was a pain, but I'm going to use an angle die grinder, and I should make quick work of this and just right in the middle. And I'll kind of give y'all a rundown of how to set these fuel lines and all that. So let me go ahead and cut it real quick, and I'll get right back to you. Alrighty, so I do got the fuel line cut, and that's what it looks like. So if it'll focus on it. Come on. Oh, anyway, I do highly recommend using the die grinder or angle grinder to cut these with the cutoff wheel, because it makes the cut so much better than with a hacksaw. Where my hacksaw is probably a little dull, so that probably a play in it. But this is the fitting I'm using, or part of the fitting I'm using. I still need, like I said, I still need to get the piece that actually goes onto the fuel rail. Hopefully that'll come about this time tomorrow. Same thing with the couple butt connectors, or a case of butt connectors. That way I could finish with this fuel pump. Get the fuel pump wired. And so basically, you take this apart. And you have the whole thing right here with the part that goes inside the hose, the nut that secures it, and the ferrule. This goes on the little plastic. Since this is a PTFE hose and fitting, this piece goes onto that little plastic piece inside the hose. Of course, this goes around everything. And what you're supposed to do, the nylon slash steel, stainless steel cord or sheathing that's around the plastic piece will get crimped up against this and this, and of course everything gets sealed up against this, and that makes the thing. So what you do is, when you cut it, you put a little bit of tape, some type of tape on it. I just use regular painter's tape to help keep everything from not fraying, because when it frays, it makes it a lot harder to get this in, and even then it's still a very, very snug fit. So basically, I'm going to have to do this offhand, but basically I want to get this onto the hose. So let me do that real quick, and I get back to when I put this piece onto the plastic piece. Alright, so see y'all in just a second. Okay, so once you get the piece down far enough, it'll actually kind of help you out a little bit. Well, at least it helped me out a little bit. I was able to, when I push it down, to pull some of the sheathing back, which is exactly what I want. As you see, be very careful, because these edges right here are very sharp. They will poke you and could cut you pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is take this little ferrule piece and stick it on the plastic. It might take a little bit of effort, because the plastic might be a little deformed from the heat of the cutting it, and of course trying to get everything on there. So just be easy with it, because it is only aluminum and it can deform and break and stuff like that. So I got kind of on there. I'm going to get out in there a little bit better in just a second, because this is really a two-hand process. So let me go ahead and get that done real quick. Alrighty, well, I got it pretty much in there, or on there, whichever way you want to describe it. And you'll pretty much know you got it in there, because there's a little lip in here, and the plastic will be seated onto that lip. And as you see, the sheathing is all the way up, starting to get up against the ferrule. That's good. So now what you want to do is take your elbow or whatever fitting you want, and kind of stuff it in here into the plastic. Then you start pulling this up and kind of twist it a little bit as well, and try to get the thread onto here. And that's basically it. Then you just take your wrench, which normally you use an aluminum AN wrench. I don't have one of those. I'm not worried about it. You normally use those AN wrenches, because these are just anodized aluminum. They will scratch, or could scratch if you're a little too rough. A way around it, just take a little bit of electrical tape and tape up the ends of the wrenches, but that takes up space. Or you could tape up the nut part of these. I said I'm not going to worry about it. This ain't a show car build at all, but that is something you may want to consider. They're relatively cheap. I think they're like 20 bucks. And you're going to really want 2 of them as well. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and get this on, get it installed. I'll show you the finished part of it, and I'll show you the whole thing installed once I get that piece in. So, I'll see y'all in just a second. Alrighty, and so that's the finished AN line. As you see, it's all nice and neat on here. It'll work perfectly for when I get that piece in. And fortunately, I have enough length to where it kind of holds it off of anything hot, so that's good. Like I said, once I get the piece in, it'll be done. One thing I want to do with these, note about these are only aluminum, so don't go and super tighten it. Pretty much, you want to just snug it up, get to where it just kind of stops turning, and that's about it. Basically, the plastic itself will seal up against that little nipple that kind of sticks into it. Then the sheathing and this part right here is basically what holds it together. So that's really all you have to worry about on those. And yeah, this is pretty much my first AN line that I ever ran and installed and made, other than a couple little fake ones on my computer, because I did a water cooling thing on my computer a while back. That's still there, but you know, whatever. That's kind of irrelevant to this build. But yeah, these are a bit of a pain, but man, they look cool, and 2, they're very, very versatile. You use pretty much these on everything: oil coolers, power steering, lines, AC lines I've even seen, hydraulic lines, you name it. Even radiator lines. I've seen AN radiator lines too. Instead of this ugly mess, you put these on there. Well, of course, the appropriate size version of those, and you're pretty much set. I still haven't tested this relay yet because I want to get that out of the way, because that was kind of, in my opinion, more important and probably the hardest thing. Now, all I have to do is run the rest of the wiring. Then load up the new tune for it, as well as doing a couple leak checks. Then securing the fuel line to the frame or the little wire harness that's down there. That kind of follows. And that's about it. Firing it up, and hopefully it works. Also, side note, one thing I did notice was this body ground was off. I wonder if that was one of the problems I was having with the fuel pump not working right. So, whatever. But now it's properly grounded again. Of course, it's got the motor ground. So, we're all set on that. One of these days, I'll go in and clean this up. Like, get rid of these 2 wires. At least tuck them out of the way and spot where they're not in the way of anything. And yeah, of course, this one is going to go down into the, probably follow this harness right here, and go down all the way to the back to where the fuel pump is. I'll probably have to run to the parts store tomorrow and grab a spool of wire, and that'll take care of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, some things in the future, this shaker will probably go away. I like it and all, but it's kind of problematic, I should say. Now, part of the problem is it's myself, the way I installed it. One, I didn't realize that the engine was offset towards the passenger side, so when the hood goes and you click the glance at it, you don't really see it, but when you stare at it, yeah, you kind of see that's off a little bit. Is that, as well as since this is a functional shaker, which is good, it does collect rainwater when it's parked, and it's kind of a no bueno, especially in Florida where it pretty much rains all the time, or a lot of the time. As well as this one's definitely my fault. The back mounts, I kind of have them set with just clips, that way you can just swing them out of the way and just undo this one screw and it comes off. The ones things in the back like to come undone and it starts bouncing around and everything. It's kind of scary. Like you kind of see this one right here, it's coming off. And that I could easily remedy by actually putting actual mounts on there. But you know, I'm lazy. Then of course the rainwater thing, I kind of I could kind of deal with too by putting a mesh right here, like a thin mesh that lets air through but not water. However, like I said, with the way that it sits on in the truck, I'm going to get rid of that and just put like a regular like hood scoop also that will still utilize this hole. I'll clean it up with the grinder and repaint it. But put a new scoop on there and that should fix that. I was looking at a couple of them. I got got a Hemi scoop that I'm really wanting, but it's very open in the front and it's kind of flimsy. I was looking at one for more like a Jeep that would look cool, but it's got thin kind of section slots in the front that don't really look good. But I could probably modify that myself because both hood scoops are fiberglass, and they just screw into the top with a little bit of little gasket, and it's fine. I've also considered just getting rid of the stock, getting a new hood and just getting the stock air cleaner because I do have the snorkel hooked up still, and that's basically cold air intake right there. So I'm gonna think on that for a while. But yeah. Anyway, that's about all I can do for today. I'll come back tomorrow and hopefully finish this thing up. I kind of need to finish it up because I need to take it to work for Thursday. Today's Tuesday. So yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to test out this relay real quick. I'm gonna do that off camera. You all don't need to really see that because it's just a relay. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll see y'all when I pick this back up tomorrow. Alright, see y'all. It's gonna be a second for you, but it's gonna be like 12 hours for me. Anyway, I'll see y'all later. So it is the next day. I got some stuff I need, some wires, some butt connectors and stuff like that. And I also finally got this piece. I already installed it. It was pretty easy. Just slides onto here and just tighten it down snugly. Don't have to over tighten it. It'll seal itself. And so that's done. So next thing I gotta do is do the wiring. The manual, I know the truck's all a mess. I just do a bunch of everything in here last night. But I was going through the paperwork for the fuel pump and it didn't say exactly what wire is what for the fuel gauge. And it turns out that it doesn't really matter as long as you got this blue wire with the yellow stripe and this black wire wired into the sensor. It will work. Doesn't matter what the wire goes to what, because I guess it's a basic signal. Voltage goes in the variant of the volt, and a different voltage comes out depending on the level, and that's it. And it just kind of shows up on the gauge like that. So that's simple. And of course, big black wire here is the pump ground, and this if you're using the 225, this is the wire that you use for the 225 liters per hour fuel pump. This would be the positive wire for the fuel pump. Since I got the 450 liters per hour pump, I can't use this wire because it's not big enough. It doesn't have enough amp support, so I have to run another positive wire here. No big deal. I'll just go follow the same route I did with the fuel line, then wire into that. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this connector on here in case I have to revert back to the factory fuel pump. Not a big deal. Then I'm going to try to figure out something for a vent, because I didn't have the money for the fitting for the vent, because it's like 50 bucks. So I'm probably just going to loosen this up, stick a hose in there, and kind of move the hose over to this, either into here or over to the side. Not the best way to do it, but it'll be fine. Like I said, it's just a vent, so I'm not really too worried about it. But as long as no water gets into there, that's all I'm concerned. This is a -8 fitting, so I might use that one, because I think I could just shove some of this hose in here. This is a -10 or -12, something like that. And that's just a 1/8 MPT thread. This is technically what the evap canister would plug into, but I don't have that set up on the truck anymore, so I'm not going to worry about that one. And of course, this is the vent. This is where this will go to. This goes out to the filler neck for the vent for the filler neck. And of course, if you're running a return system, this is technically where it's supposed to return at. But I want to figure that out a little bit later. I'm gonna just get this thing wired in now. I'll come back with the final result. Well, I'll come back to you in a second once I get this gauge wired in. So see y'all in just a little bit. Alrighty, so I got pretty much the fuel pump wired in. I took the little plug out from the top because I don't have these two other sizes, so that's what I'm gonna stick a hose through to vent the tank, keep the pressures where it's supposed to be, or at least attempt to. I don't have the wiring tidied up yet, just gonna have it dangling right now. I'm gonna have to get some zip ties. I have the ignition on, and as you can see, the fuel gauge works perfectly. And I'm going to do a pressure test. What I did was I took the relay out for now because I want to trigger it manually from the computer. I'll show you, probably be able to put it on now. Now that I think of it, make sure I got it in the right way. There we go. So I'm going to go to trigger it through the computer. Got Tuner Studio loaded up. I'm going to go to CAN bus test modes. Go to test injector spark. Enable test mode. Fuel pump on. And as you can hear the fuel pump on. System's running. Check for leaks all around this area. Also leaks up here. It all seems dry. So now I'm going to turn the test back off because I'm pretty certain it's good. Fuel pump off. Disable test mode. Now I'm going to try to fire it up. Now I still have the regular the old tune in it, so it's going to probably run rich as heck, which is fine. So truck's at neutral. Oh yeah, she's rich. Yep. Auto position's way snappier too. So yeah, all I gotta do is tidy up the. Yeah, she's rich. But all I gotta do is tidy up the wiring and put my bed line back in and get everything out. Put the little hose in the top, and it's all good. So I'm gonna do that on my own time. If y'all know what to do, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. My username will be in the description. And be safe, have fun, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Alright, so see you in the next video.